We are moving on now to best mechanic. We're going to start off strong.
That's a good mechanic.
There's a lot of mechanics. We're going to start
There
off.
are.
We're going to talk a bit about Wo Long. Lorelai, I will start playing this video you have prepared for us that is an hour and 20 minutes long.
It is. We're going to watch the whole thing. It's an hour and 26, but it really, I think it gets my point across. No, let's start at let's start at 28 minutes and 40 seconds. If you will. We're gonna go into my best moment or sequence nominee.
We watched a lot of Blue Boo. I just want to say
it's how you can parry every single thing in the game. And like when you watch this is like a no damage run, and the only way to do that is to essentially perfect parry every attack, not just the red ones. So it's all about like incredible timing, and you get these like moments of I think I described it the other day it's like Evo moment 37 in every fight. Just that point where you are countering every single possible thing coming at you. And so far he hasn't hit his second phase. Like all those arrows coming that's multi-hit each one. So he's actually parrying twice with every wave of arrows. And it is such a different kind of combat to what Neo was, where yes, you could counter, but you could only really counter specific things. And making it so you could just do it to every single ability that an enemy throws at you in the game is such a cool and incredible feeling when you get the timing down for it. And is like legitimately like if you can't do it, you won't beat some of the fights in this game. You just donk 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 donk. There's such a good rhythm to the way the dodge works. Like that point where it's like parry, 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 parry to parry that entire combo there now that he's in his second phase it is like the best any of these games has ever felt on that front for me.
It sounds a lot how like the change between like Souls games to Sekiro works. Sekiro is very similar in that and like the way it's designed. I feel like Sekiro goes for a very like rhythm based thing where it's like it presents turns, like here is your enemy's opening to attack, here's yours, and then you're like doing a back and forth fight in that regard. And I definitely get that sense from watching this as well.
Yeah, like it is genuinely every single fight in the game has interesting ways to do those. I think, let's see, where is he?
I'm really feeling a battle groove here. Also, you can parry a horse.
Yeah, you can parry a horse.
I love that.
Parry.
Yeah, why didn't you title this Parry a Horse?
Yeah. You've got two bosses in the arena at once that are both coming at you, and you have to know the timing on their attacks, because they are actually like the way they tag team has a pattern to it, which is actually really nice, because otherwise like a pair of bosses in one fight would be really, really obnoxious. And in this, you kind of know that if one guy does one thing, the other will be doing a similar kind of thing in a couple of seconds. Wow, this guy's actually just fucking trucking them one at a time. That's not how I got my damageless kill. I was fucking beating them both at the same time. But it is such a like good feeling where every single fight has learnable
They
patterns.
do the Watcher and Defender thing where they bring the other one back. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. Like it's such a fun just hey, once you get it down, you just get it. And like a boss fight to re-clear suddenly becomes like baby mode when you understand their patterns. It's like learning it's learning any of the Souls fights. Once you beat it once and understand all the patterns that you can see, it's easy to go back and clear, but it's just so much fun to be able to like, oh yeah, I know all those timings. Not only am I going to go back and clear it, I'm not going to get fucking touched.
Mm-hmm.
And the ability to just completely take no damage, like once you know how a fight works, it feels so good. I still need to go back and do my I tempted to go back and try a no damage run on all the bosses.
Right.
Just cause they are like, I could conceivably see myself doing that, because I've done that with a few of them in Neo 2, but just the way the parry stuff in this game works makes it feel so good and feels so rewarding. Like there's attacks that, because they hit with a pattern, even though they are like a character spinning at you with his spear and hitting, like if you pay attention to when the damage sound is going off, you can learn the parry timing for each individual hit of that spin, because he's, whirlwinding straight at you. And there's a parry timing for every single one of the 13 hits that you can just stand there and go, oh yeah, I'm just not gonna move, fuck you. It rules.
Right.
I do like a game that lets you become invulnerable if you're quick enough.
Yeah, if you're quick, or just good at understanding timings, because none of
Yeah.
them are like mash circle as fast as you can. It's always
Right.
hit it with a timing pattern. And
I saw a
it's
lot
not,
of people playing Lies of P that too. It's pretty cool.
And the thing I like though about Wo Long is it is much clearer. There is a visual spark. At the moment, you can dodge any or you can parry any attack, and it's brighter on the red ones. But even regular attacks, there's a little spark that you can see to let you know the timing of when to hit the parry button. And it's just, there's really good visual indicators for things that, like, now that I've started Lies of P, Lies of P doesn't have the visual indicators as good. It still fucking feels incredible. That game rules. But like the visual indicators of Wo Long are so good at doing what it is. Like there's a reason like I love this game so much, even though I am extremely disappointed by it still.
Sure. You want to talk about the Ultra Hand in Tears of the Kingdom? Okay, so they introduced Tears of the Kingdom telling you up front, hey, you're going to be able to attach anything to anything and just sort of make your own silly things out of it. All with the Ultra Hand ability. And the Ultra Hand has a couple different uses to it. It's similar to the Magnesis in the first game, in Breath of the Wild, where you can pick up an item and move it around. But now you can pick it up, move it around, and also attach it to other items just sitting around on the ground. Just anything in the world, most anything. There's, you can't attach people to things, You can't attach it to like the side of a wall on a building or something, But you can make pretty much anything. It's insane. I prepared a series of videos for us that are people's creations. It's so hard to talk about without just seeing for yourself. So here we go. Here's our first one that we have. This is one of the very first things that someone made in this, which was
Oh, excellent.
a dick that turns into exploding balls. This was like one of the first little buildings someone made, or the first little vehicles, which you can this feels like a system very designed for vehicles, and they made just a big old tank that's shooting just explosives.
Feels like the dawn of civilization.
And
Yes.
you go from that to this, which is a fully functioning mech. A fully functioning pilotable mech.
Hello?
Okay.
What?
Yeah. That's video games, baby.
This is the... What the fuck?
Just like the sort of like breadth and scope of things you can just make in this game out of all the different parts lying around is absurd.
I mean, that's the power of the soul banana.
Yeah, exactly.
Fucking what? Yeah, that is just a big mech.
He's walking up to a Lionel and just shooting it with explosives. Now, there's limitations to it, obviously. Like, this person isn't hitting a button to shoot something. His weapons are, like, shooting things automatically out of his arms. But, like, it turned on because
Wow.
this is someone who attached a Korok up there to a cross, and they're just parading it around. You can't attach
Mechanic
Korok.
isn't just practical, it's also entertaining.
Exactly.
Ugh.
This is
It's
someone
aesthetic.
discovering you could make a piston.
Oh my god. This is the Industrial Revolution of video games. I didn't know any of this was possible.
You can attach weapons to it, and if you have an actual motion of it going forward, the weapon will damage something.
Wow, what?
Cooking a fish in real time using your little piston. And that's an actual fish you can now eat.
I gotta play this fucking game.
It's like
This
there's
this
some
one, real
fucking
quick.
amazing
Oh my
things
God.
you can do.
This one, he attached a bunch of Koroks to his spit and is making a barbecue.
Oh my god.
Yeah, there was a whole era of Korok torture, because Koroks are
yeah.
things that you can attach.
Oh!
Things. This is just
What is
just a
a spider?
spider crawler with a bunch of wheels for legs.
I really hate this one.
Yeah, no, I hate this one too.
Wait, this one.
Here, I'll pause
If
it.
it were a real
You-
spider crawler, it'd be able to climb the wall.
Wait, please,
Disgusting contraption. Thank you, Link.
please go ahead, Lorelai. Sorry to cut you off.
Oh no, I didn't say anything important.
Okay.
I was just saying, if it was a real spider crawler, it would have been able to climb that mountain instead of garbage.
True, true.
This is someone experimenting with trying to design a single-wheeled vehicle.
Oh, that's the good shit. That is. Oh, trapped in a
Oh,
tree.
no.
Oh.
Oh, I'm obsessed.
It's so stupid and
Yeah.
perfect.
just catching the enemies just out of the air. Oh no. This is a remote operated surface to air vehicle that has its own independent drones that also detach. The beautiful thing about Tears of the Kingdom is not only can you make these things, but you can unlock an ability that lets you save any designs that you make, and you can just generate it with a pretty easy to get resource. So anytime you make something like a surface to air fucking solo piloted drone. Oh, this guy just made a swing for a Kurok because he got tired of them being
Aww.
tortured.
Oh,
But yeah.
I love this.
But yeah, you can just save anything you make and then just put it together relatively cheaply whenever you want. It's really sick.
Oh, he's stressed out.
Considering the other things that were happening to Kuroks.
Yeah, they went crazy on Kuroks for a little bit. I remember all that.
This is also what I mean of you being able to generate any object you want at any time. Here's a cage someone made.
Oh yeah.
Just truly, the amount of, like, brutality, the war crimes you can inflict. Like, this isn't just, like... This isn't just, like... This isn't just, I can make a silly vehicle to play around with. Like, you can use all of this for just normal gameplay as well.
Right to the maelstrom, huh? God damn.
And here's the last one. Listen closely.
Wow.
People found out that where you bury these little like spikes that you can bury into the ground will actually change the pitch of it being hit by objects. So
Oh shit.
you can even just make music in this game too if you want. It's
I could watch these forever, I'll be honest with you.
It's so beautiful, just like the breadth and scope of all the different things that you can just build in this game. And like a lot of people, I think when they play this game, mostly just ignored the building until they got to the point where it's like, oh, I have enough resources that I can use it. But then like once you're at that point in the game, you don't really need to do anything like that. I think a lot of people actually really use the there was one glider that got really popular. Let me see if I can find it. They made a hover bike that was really easy to put together. And it's also absurdly cheap. It costs like 3 items to put together. And people found out, hey, if we just put it in if we make it in a certain way, it'll be like one of the best little vehicles that you can have. So this hover bike got extremely popular. It's just 2 fans and it's a seat that you can fly around in.
Oh my god.
It's so, and you can just, I made this thing and just did it a whole bunch, especially when I was exploring like the underground part of the game. You can just make this and fly wherever you want as long as you have the energy for it.
I did not know it was this in depth.
Oh my god, apparently, oh my god, I haven't even seen this. Someone did a version where they put like a railing under the seat, so like you can actually get wings on it. Oh my god. No way. Come on. I have to see how this flies for real. Oh my god, it actually balances it out! That's so funny. They put wings on it.
Fucking smooth flying.
Holy shit.
That is so smooth.
Oh, look at the turning.
I'm probably never gonna play this game again because I did literally everything in it, but if I did, holy fuck.
Wow.
Yeah, that's really impressive. The turning radius too? Oh my god, and it floats when it lands? Is that real? It floats when it lands in water! That's so sick. I hate that I'm...
Oh, it can't be like dunked.
I hate how much I'm like immediately getting back into this. But yeah, people just found amazing ways to just build things very economically that let you get around really quickly. Turns out, Spencer, I know you played a bunch of Shadows of Doubt.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I played a good amount of that as well. We actually streamed it. Oh my god, I forgot all about that. We did. Oh my god.
I certainly didn't. You were like hyping me up as like the Columbo of Shadows of Doubt because I had like spent like
you did
30, 70 hours the first week it came out just going like nuts on that game. So, but yeah, it's so. Would you bring up with what'd you like about Shadows of Doubt in terms of its mechanics?
Oh, very interesting that you would bring this up in the best mechanics section. I really like the case board, which is the essentially the pin board where you grab any and all evidence that you can collect. And you can choose whether or not you want to put it on the board. You can choose not to. You can delete things, bring things back. The entire there's so many different ways you can interact with this, and it all exists in order to help you conceptualize the actual mystery that you're trying to solve. And the beauty of it is none of it is explicitly spelled out. All of it, especially in a game that is procedurally generated. So it's not like they can 100. Well, it's not like it would be tremendously easy for them to call out all of the important story things that they want to handhold you towards. There's the beauty of the case board where all of the information that you put is all chosen by you. And it's up to you to make the connections. It's up to you to, the best way to put it. It's up to you to figure out where things lead to what. And they do provide you with some help in the sense of, like, if there's any evidence that is 100% related to another thing, like 100% confirmed related, it will just generate a piece of red string that connects a piece of evidence to another piece of evidence. And usually that's something like, oh, I know what someone's fingerprint is. I found this fingerprint. I don't know much else about this person, but I know for a fact that this fingerprint belongs to them, and that they live here, and all of those things are connected. And then you find all of the extra evidence that you need based off of that, which is really cool. I love the way it encourages you to look at all aspects of all of the different specific things that you are trying to solve all at once. And I love too the added layer of, have I added too much to this? Do I have a whole bunch of red herrings here that don't make a lot of sense? And what do I keep as relevant information? What do I put off to the side that might be important, but I know is at least tangentially related somehow? It's great. I love how it manages to make you think about all of the things that are happening in the world at the time without explicitly making you do any of it. It's there to assist you. It's not there to be your set of objectives. Sort of like, I love Pathologic too, but the information board, so to say, in that game is basically just your set of objectives, you know? This is an entirely different approach to that. That game is making you question the things you need to question, but it's also marking them off as you progress.
Yeah.
Whereas this is making you figure out everything as you go.
Yeah, it's kind of like Pathologic 2 has that advantage in that it's not procedurally generated. It's
right.
A scripted, specific story, and so they know all the pieces and all the connections. And the big thing is seeing where connections are and then having to decide I think it basically going out on hunches and going out and exploring. But in Shadows of Doubt, you have to make everything up from scratch, and it kind of reminds me of how a lot of games let you do things like take notes or write notes on maps. Thief 1 has this where you can actually type on the maps little notes, but I almost never use those features
right
in games because there usually isn't a reason to, because those games also tend to have things like objective markers, or They have some sort of like little checklist of things you can do, and then it's like, oh, okay, I guess I just have to check the closet here, and then I'll find like the safe that I need to get into or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But in Shadows of Doubt, it's all on your own. You have to figure out stuff on your own, and it's all completely optional. You don't have to use the case board if you don't want to.
Yeah.
It certainly helps and keeps everything like...
It's very important, and you should do it.
Yeah, but you technically do not have to. A detail I also like is how if you get a piece of evidence from a specific location, it will automatically, and you put that location on the pin board, it will automatically connect those pieces to that location. So you don't have to go... So if you're checking multiple apartments, you don't have to go and think about like, oh shit, where did I get this tissue from? Was it from apartment 401 or was it from apartment 403? I don't remember. And it's like it'll just do that for you. And it'll also update stuff, as you said. Like, you might get a fingerprint and it's like you don't know who that belongs to, and then like it'll just be there on the board. But then once you find the person and you get their fingerprints, then it'll like update, and it'll say like, oh, this is this. It'll go from being this is fingerprint BC to this is fingerprint of Jebediah Alexis, and then you're good.
There's an attitude to the board too that I think is also the attitude that sort of permeates the rest of the game, in that the world feels very agnostic to you. It feels like a very realistic... Sorry, the person in the gameplay video I have up in the background just managed to clip through the floor somehow, and even they're standing there like, what just happened? But yeah, there's a feeling that the world is agnostic to you, and it feels realistic in that sense, because like the world doesn't exist as a play space for you. It does, but less than it does, but in a way that it is. This guy is getting shot to shit. He did not even realize he needed to turn off these security cameras. But that proves my point. Like, this guy tried to break into a room without dealing with the cameras first, and that's this element of like, oh, all of these things exist in the world. They're not necessarily challenges, like they're not spelled out as challenges for you to overcome. They're just realities of the world, and it's up for you to just solve how you navigate all of those things, you know? Like the fact that all of the apartment buildings are just full-on apartment buildings that all have their own rooms, and all of those rooms, or most of those rooms at least, contain people, and you can knock on all those doors and you can talk to all those people. And if you just try and talk to random strangers, most of them aren't going to be friendly to you. They're just going to say, hey, get lost, like, which is, you know, if you're a person just walking around asking people questions, that feels very on point. If you're someone just trying to break into a room that you weren't supposed to go to originally, yeah, maybe the cameras with guns mounted on them are gonna try and shoot you. The thing I love too is that all of the apartment buildings have an elaborate ventilation shaft system that you can duck into, and which is relatively good for trying to get out of a sticky situation and like just trying to sneak away. But also it's a ventilation system through an entire multi-level apartment building. If you stay in it too long, it's really easy to get incredibly lost very quickly, and two, if you stay in it too long, you just start to like develop a cold. Like, you're not supposed to be in there. So I mention all this with relation to the case board because the case board itself, as your means of cataloging and organizing all of these thoughts, plays into the sort of agnostic nature of the world. Like, all of the evidence that exists doesn't like completely exist in order to like let you solve mysteries, you know? You can find so much random useless information for the things that you're working on, but you could also just like if you want to be a weirdo, just try and catalog the entire lives of every single person that's here in this city that you're sharing. If you know are if you need to know exactly everything, and it makes you feel like that kind of what's the best way of putting it? That kind of incredibly overly obsessive kind of person that you would expect to be in the shoes of a detective.
Yeah, it the ability to like organize the information in the case board one is really fitting for the fact that it's a detective game, and it's kind of surprising that a lot of other detective games don't have like a similar mechanic, and they definitely don't have it to the same degree of player fidelity that Shadows of Doubt does. I know that
I think those Sherlock Holmes games do.
I think that
like I don't think it's a new idea when it comes to games, but I think the way it's presented in this game is so deeply like it plays not only into the larger themes of the world, but also the sort of mechanical identity of it.
Yeah, I don't think that there's been a game that's done it on a procedural level, where the whole world is procedural, and you can catalog. Like, we're all familiar with a bunch of games where like you can pick up random trash on the street and it doesn't do anything, but you can just pick it up and like hold it. Like, oh man, there's so many games where you can like pick up a bottle and you can use it to like throw it at an enemy or whatever. But like, do you really when you're playing a game that has guns in it? Like, no. Like, this is a game that has all of that, and then also you can catalog it on a little menu and just connect everything as you want. And there's not really a reason to do that, but it's there because it's a whole framework for this whole system of investigation and information cataloging. And you can, if you want to brute force everything, you can just go to like the city hall, sit on the computer desk there, and just comb through and print out every citizen's file that's in the world, and just have 800 to 1,000 pages of everybody's private information like a weirdo. And you can do that to brute force like investigations really, really easily. But one, it's extremely monotonous and boring and takes about an hour time. Don't ask me how I know exactly how long it takes. And two, the game is like the mysteries, the murders you have to solve are well enough designed that generally speaking, you do not have to resort to such a brute force method. Like, there's usually a logical like connection that has to be made somewhere. And like once you figure out like the little tricks behind all of the specific different murder types, it mostly becomes routine and very easy to figure out what to do. But having the case board still is useful for organizing information, because unlike a bunch of other games where you have like an objective list of things you need to do, in Shadows of Doubt, the objective list is literally just a form that you have to fill out when you're going in to submit, you know, hey, I've solved the murder mystery, can you give me some money so I can live in this hyper-capitalist society run by a mega corporation who is the president of the United States.
Which is Coca-Cola, by the way.
Yeah.
There's a beauty of it where it's like someone... I don't want to posit too much of like how this game was designed, but like there's a beauty of it where it feels like someone was like, I want to make like the ultimate detective simulator, and then there's a level of trying to figure out the scope of that where you're like, okay, well, how do detectives live? Like, what is like being a detective mean? That means that means the logical conclusion of all of this is I need to fully 100% simulate actual life. You know, the weird logical conclusion that all all games that get big enough tend to make. And the beauty is it pulls it off in a way that, like, even if you're not interested in solving crimes and doing the detective fantasy or anything, you'd still probably be pretty impressed by the level of just like weird, minute detail you can get into of just exploring the worlds that get generated.
Last I checked, there was a sub-community of people who play this game not as a detective simulator, but as a thievery simulator.
That's good.
Because you can break into houses, or break into apartments, you can steal basically a whole bunch, as many items as you have inventory slots, and there's ways to get more. And there's a pawn shop where you can sell items that you steal for cash. And there's even obviously you use cash as things to because your character gets debuffs, like you get hungry, you get thirsty, and you can get sickness, and you can get cold and stuff. But so you do need to use some of your cash to stave off the human condition.
Right.
But there's also just a money sink in the terms of you can buy multiple apartments and fancier apartments, and then you can furnish them, and it becomes a whole Animal Crossing deal.
Yeah, finding out this game just had full on apartment furnishing was real wild.
Yeah. But it's the caseboard itself is it's got it. The only part that I didn't like about the caseboard was, granted, the game is still in early access. It was supposed to be fully released in November or December, but they had to delay it for a bit. So it's actually coming out in 2024 now. But sometimes the UI can be a bit finicky to navigate.
Yeah.
I would find out that's selecting, because you can have different color strings between each of the different parts, and selecting the colors is really, really slow and clunky.
Mm-hmm.
But the bones itself of the caseboard system, really good, really phenomenal. Love everything about it.
Right.
You can even use it to just kind of as a note-taking thing. Not even when you're on a case. I usually have a folder open, because you can make multiple folders for different cases. I usually have a folder open that's just filled with sticky notes of me taking information and stuff. Or maybe me pinning a person that I've this person seems significant in some way. I'm going to pin it here. And then just refer back to it later. So.
That's good. Yeah, it's real fucking cool. I just want to really briefly touch upon the knife parry in Resident Evil 4 remake. Resident Evil 4, the knife in the original game is a really great way to just whenever enemies get close to you, keep them off of you, put them in a melee state so you can actually take care of them without needing to waste bullets. It's a really handy tool. It's such an important part of your kit in that game that they had an entire button dedicated to it. In Resident Evil 4 Remake, they decided that the knife should also be able to parry things, which I like Resident Evil 4 Remake fine. I've talked a lot about it, how I feel about it, over many podcasts on this site already. I don't want to get too much into that, but I think what's so intrinsic to the identity of the Resident Evil 4 Remake is adding this knife parry, which you can use to parry pretty much any attack that comes to you, including big scripted attacks too. The important part about it is they knew that just letting you parry anything with the knife would be a little too strong, so the knife now has durability in this, so parrying becomes a resource that you need to take into account, because if your knife breaks, you can't parry, and if you can't parry, then things are going to get really bad. It includes even from Resident Evil 2 Remake, the ability to just stick your knife into enemies that are about to just kill you.
I actually really like that.
Yeah.
It's a really neat mechanic. I have my problems with Resident Evil 4 Remake, But none of those problems are, this game is extremely tight to play, you know?
Yeah.
I should have included fucking the fight with Krauser and Juicin when we were talking about this game, because that is Juicin. The way you're, like, mixing up, like, evade rolls, evade flips, and parries. Yeah, no, it's just good. This guy is parrying an automatic gun being fired at him.
This is like fundamental. I love this.
I didn't even know you could chop off the fucking Regenerator's arms at the parry. He knife parried a knife being thrown at him.
Okay, they put so much thought into this knife.
The knife is unbelievably useful. This is just a final boss fight. What are you parrying? Yeah, sure. Why not? But yeah, no, it's like much like that was him just like killing a snake. But yeah, no, just the amount of like what you can do just with a knife in Resident Evil 4 remake is like why that game stands out on its own, even as a remake to Resident Evil 4. And fundamentally, it's one of the most interesting things like they did with that game. They turned it into an entirely different type of fast-paced action game when they were remaking one of the best fast-paced action games ever made.
Gotta love it.
Franny, do you want to? I see we have the biggest explosion in Baldur's Gate 3 here. If you would like to expand on that.
Yeah, I mean that's a tall claim. I can't tell you if that's true, but like,
that's a lot of stuff there.
It's a lot of stuff.
That's a lot of barrels.
I just want to talk about.
That's more barrels than a 2010s YouTuber.
Not even barrels. It looks like there's some sacks there.
Yeah, there's sacks in there. There's definitely void bulbs in there too. Someone really. Okay, so
basically we're talking about explosions.
We're talking about
Fireball
explosions.
Is the main one because they really went well. Like Fireball, traditionally very big, very explosive, and then there's like I feel like there's been memes about Fireball in like D&D for ages.
Yeah, no, there's a really funny one that like
let's let him go fucking crazy.
There's a really funny picture that's like it's like D&D is a game about choice. You can do whatever you want, and then like all wizards at level 5, and it's just like a wizard casting a fireball.
Yeah. And then you can add things in like, so you can have Fireball, it's really powerful, and then you can add things like spell sculpting so you don't hurt your friends and you don't have to care where they're standing. And then you can also put, there's like 100 different explosive things in this game, and you can put things into other things, and you can make little bags full of poisons and I'm
so hesitant to press play. But I think like even just just this small starting frame of this video sort of highlights one of the very powerful things about Baldur's Gate 3, which is like there are so many different items you can pick up that all have a whole bunch of different properties, and if you find explosive barrels around, you can pick them up and add them to your inventory. They're heavy, but you can do it. You can just send them to camp and then bring them back when you need them.
You can just set them up. You can take them out of your bag, set them up in the little tower around Gortash.
Mm-hmm. And then
drop a bomb on them, and the chain reaction.
Well, we don't know if they're gonna do a bomb. They might do like a firebolt. They might do a fireball.
They're gonna do a fireball. They're gonna drop firepower upon him.
Okay, I'm ready to hit play reaction. When you are.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, here we
hit
go.
that play button. Okay, he's pointing.
Scroll a fireball, not even just a cast.
Oh yeah, I mean scrolls are better. Don't blame me. As they say in the biz, bazinga.
The amount of just like debris that left. Okay.
The visible shockwave.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that there was like an animation for making an explosive that big.
Oh yeah.
There's like a bespoke animation for setting off a nuke apparently that Baldur's Gate 3 has always had that I just had no idea. Because I've made some big explosions, but never one that big.
Yeah.
That's so funny that they did that. Yeah, no, it's it's incredible just like the amount of bullshit that they'll just let you stack, and it's like, this isn't even a situation where this person has been saving up all of these resources their entire game and they're finally getting a chance to use them. This is just like, there's so many explosive barrels just lying around. This person has a bunch of fireworks that they stole from the fireworks store.
That's another one. There's the fireworks store, and you have to go and like kill everyone in it. And you can just take all the fireworks.
That's what I did.
Put those away for a rainy day.
I took all those fireworks. I don't even think I blew up anyone with them. I just had them. I just kept them. I'm hitting play on this. Solo Raphael in one turn.
Yeah, a lot of these videos are Raphael and Gortash, which is fair. Both of those fights are really annoying, so if you can just nuke them right away, it's probably the best option.
Also, like, enemies just sort of don't seem to care when you put a bunch of items around them.
No, they don't. These videos are so fucking funny.
The autosave for killing him.
The instant journal update. The frame rate just tanking.
I love how often this is just like, the computer is dying.
It does catch up eventually, but it'll just freeze your shit.
There's someone still
In the
alive!
audio. Yeah.
Yeah, just shoot him. What are you doing? What's your plan?
Oh, monk shit.
Yeah, monks are kind of absurd.
Yeah, whatever.
One turn!
Monks are so much fun.
Oh my god.
It really speaks to the physical integrity of this game. You can just do, this is not a fireball, but it is another explosion.
Yeah, you mentioned it before. I would like you to explain what exactly is happening when I hit play on this.
They're using the weapon you get from one of the Act 2 bosses, where if you put a bunch of... There's like a damage modifier for how much money someone is holding, so you could sneak up and put a bunch of money on them, and then hit them with this weapon, and it makes them explode.
Yeah, they just reverse pickpocketed like $800 into Raphael.
See, what I love is they when that weapon was originally introduced.
That's just a pile of blood. Oh my god.
When that weapon was originally introduced, it would
just take the money back.
You could just pickpocket the money back. It destroys the money now.
That's so funny.
That's so smart.
Fine.
Just get your buddy back up. It's fine. Oh, here's another one. Nuclear bomb, okay.
I just love the pile of barrels. It's so classic. I think people do call it like barrelmancy. Like it's a build. This is so crazy. It's so visually stunning and like nauseating.
It's so much more satisfying than just like stacking up a bunch of dynamite in like Minecraft or something, you know?
It's so much more satisfying than like doing a fight properly with all your people and all their spells and abilities. You just blow them up.
Man, they really fucking nailed it with that one.
Yeah.
Today in Baldur's Gate 3 we have
500 barrels!
Join me today as not only the goblins get set on fire, but my laptop as well.
Spencer, Talk to me about weapon customization in Lies of P.
Obviously, Lies of P is in the same vein as the From Software suite of action RPGs. We all know this. This is all we've all have known this when we first saw the game. That we looked at it and went, "Oh, they're doing a Dark Souls. They're doing a Bloodborne." We've known this. From Software themselves have developed out their combat system, which is the focus of their games, with each new installment. Like when they went from Demon Souls to Dark Souls, they were like, "All right, we're going to have Estus so that you have, more controlled healing for the player, so you're not just spamming watercress whenever you're injured." But in terms of like the actual combat things, they were like, "All right, we're going to give you a few more weapons. We're going to have a new like pyromancy magic type, which coincides with Dark Souls' lore." And then when they went to Dark Souls 2, they were like, "All right, we're going to have like power stancing, where you can like dual wield weapons as long as they're the same type of weapon, so 2 straight swords or 2 daggers." When they went with Bloodborne, they were like, "All right, we're gonna move away from shields and we're gonna go into like gun parrying with bullets, and we're also gonna have trick weapons that are like your weapon can be an X weapon and also a Y weapon. Like it's a straight sword, but it's also a giant hammer." And then when they went to Dark Souls 3, they were like, "All right, now we're gonna have each weapon is gonna have like a weapon art." We're a special technique that it can do that you can use and spend like basically focus points to execute. Sekiro I didn't play, so
it's so good.
No, I didn't play Sekiro, but like they expanded upon the systems there by like they had a specific defined character and they built all of the like combat mechanics around that character, right? And as well as the new combat system with like the stagger meter and the stance thing. And then, we get Elden Ring, and they've got like weapon ashes and ashes of war and stuff. And now, like dual wielding, you can do with basically any weapon. It's not just you have to have 2 scythes or 2 straight swords. You can do any weapons together, basically.
Well, you power stance with 2 of the same weapon, but
right, but
2 of the same weapon type.
But like you can, like using 2 different weapons isn't like super janky like it was in like Dark Souls 1.
I guess it's just like every time I think about people who do like dual wielding in weapons in Elden Ring, it's usually the same people who dual wielded in like Dark Souls 1, where it's like I have a sword and like I have a sword in my offhand because that actually gives me a little bit more priority. It's a lot. It's sort of the same idea, but we're in Lies of P.
Yeah, also, so I bring up all of this because Lies of P not only, like, does their own spin on expanding that weapon system, they do it in a way that From Software themselves have not done, and they do it in a way that is both extremely fitting to the setting and general motifs of Lies of P in terms of its gameplay and its world, and also in a way that's incredibly sick as hell, where they have, like, a set list of specific weapons that are all fairly distinct from one another. There's a little bit of overlap, but generally speaking, like if you find like a rapier, which is one of the first weapons you can get, like that's basically the only rapier in the game, more or less. There's like 2 different daggers where one's just like a fire dagger and the other one's like a regular dagger. So, like, there is a little bit of overlap, but it's a bit more like in Bloodborne, where most of the weapons are distinct in their own identity and what they do. But what they did with weapon customization in Lies of P is they didn't just do the thing that the From Software games have done for ages, which is, like, you can infuse weapons with a specific, like, affinity, I guess you'd call it, where, this weapon now scales with strength, or this weapon now deals fire damage. Like, that's in Lies of P, but in addition to that, each weapon is split into 2 different parts. Basically a weapon head, or blade, or the killing part of the weapon, and then the handle. And what you can do is you can mix and match and customize them like they're their own puppet, basically. Like you can match the head with the body or mix them together, and you can do different things. Like one of the combinations that I did was there's a weapon that's like kind of like the saw cleaver from Bloodborne, and I combined it with the booster glaive handle, so then I could like do the booster glaives handle, like the rushing charge attack, but it had like the saw blade instead of like the actual glaive head.
Right.
So,
And there's
because,
like, no, go ahead.
go ahead. Because in addition to just like, oh, turns out Dark Souls had weapon arts on all the weapons. Well, each weapon in Lies of P has two of them, one for the weapon head and one for the handle. So you can mix and match. So when you mix and match the weapon parts, you mix and match their weapon arts as well, which are called Fable arts, because of course they're going to call it Fable arts. It's Pinocchio. So, but
yeah, there's a lot of like diversity in it too, because not only is it like, you know, there's a ton of different combinations, but the combinations all tend to complement each other in really interesting ways. Like, you can make bad combinations too, which is the especially good part. Is like you can just make a combination that just fucking sucks. But like that's part of the beauty of why this is so interesting and why it works is the blade tends the blade and the handle both dictate different properties of the weapon. Like the blade dictates how strong it is, and like the handle dictates what moveset it has. And each one of those parts of it has a special ability associated with it that you know, putting them together gives you a different loadout of what you can have at any given time. And the like added benefit of it is like range doesn't appear to be dictated by just solely one of the things. It seems to be tuned in such a way that like the length of your weapon actually depends on both of the handle and the blade combined together, which is like really cool. It speaks to I think just how much extra work they needed to put in to make a system like this even work at all. But not only does it work, it manages to let you do a whole bunch of absurdly crazy things. Like I took a rapier at the start, and I found myself constantly switching the blade on it. And one of the things that sort of balances the system out is the heavier your weapon is, the slower it swings. So, but the rapier is generally very quick. So even if you put a very large blade on it, your attacks with it are still going to be really, really fast. They're probably going to be weaker compared to if you put it on a different kind of blade or a different kind of handle. But there is so much modularity in what you can do between every single customization.
Yeah, one of my funnier combos, which definitely shouldn't have worked, was so one of the weapons is a butcher knife, like a little cleaver, right? And it's pretty quick weapon, and you know, love to have a cleaver in a video game. It's a knife type you don't usually see a lot. Like usually, like you see enemies use them all the time, but they never really give you like as a player like the ability to just use a butcher knife. So I took the blade off of the butcher knife, so I had the butcher knife handle, which is, as you might expect, it's a one-handed handle, and it swings pretty quickly. And I replaced the butcher knife axe head with the big, giant, two-handed, like, this is a pole axe, weapon axe head thing. So my P was running around with this tiny little handle, and next to it was, like, a gigantic, huge-ass axe head. Like, you think of the Kirk hammer, it's bigger than that. And it was basically like he's running around, like, dragging this gigantic-ass fucking, like, blocky axe head around and just, like, mowing through people, just cleaving them. It's basically, I turned the little cleaver into, like, gigantic anime cleaver with, like, from, like, Nier Automata, because it's got a bunch of puppet hands holding the axe head together.
Odd.
It was insane. And then I found a video online of somebody using this exact combo, but they were doing the sicko, like, I'm going to do a whole bunch of, like, weapon buffs and stuff and just, like, one-shot bosses. And, like, I wasn't even at that point yet because I hadn't finished the game. Like, I was only a little bit ways into it. And I was like, you know what? That's ridiculous. But I mostly stuck with one of the boss weapons, the I think it's called like the puppet scythe or something.
Right. I used that a whole bunch too until I eventually got the twin dragon sword, which
And they do
excellent.
not let you they don't let you customize the boss weapons in
Right.
terms of like you can't like change out their parts, but that is a concession I'm willing to accept because they're boss weapons. They have their own identity, and their big thing is that they have really good stats, really good scaling, and they usually do some more flashy stuff. So if you were able to customize them, it would kind of ruin that because they'd have to be
Right.
balanced with the rest of the weapon systems. And it's not even that you really even, again, you don't have to really engage with the system at all. Like, I beat one of the final bosses just with the regular ass Tyrant's Dagger because it's just a really solid dagger for a game like this. And I found it to be very powerful. But I didn't feel the need to like change it out like I did with the butcher knife. But it really says a lot that the base weapons are really good, and then they've also like extremely overcomplicated everything by letting you take and pick apart these weapons and combine them in weird Frankenstein ways. Like, it's novel too, especially in a game like this. Like, it's a novel thing where being able to just like take weapons apart and put them together. Even outside of the genre, I can't think of another game that has done this in like a long time.
I'm popping in a video of one that I made.
Oh yeah, the pile bunker one.
Yeah, you can. I put a police baton at the end of the piston, and that's just something you can make. And I think what I've managed to create here is very unique within the Soul setting, and something that the fans have really been looking for a really long time, which is putting one of those kinds of machines in this game, which is just something you can do. You can put anything you want on the end of that piston, and it's gonna be pretty good.
Yep. The Tyrant Dagger blade is one that I tried out, and it was devastating. Like that. It's just like you could just do really absurd, insane shit, the fun part is like if you put the saw blade on it, it spins around in a way that's like that wouldn't work as a weapon, but like it works sick in a video game, and it's funny as hell. I know somebody who combined like it's one of the weapons that P holds like over his shoulder with the handle. But they put the fire axe head on top of it, so he's just rocking around with this dinky little tiny fire axe that's got an ornate like great sword handle on it. And it's like it just works.
That's what I love is like the like head part of the fire axe thing is not like, it's not like, you know, they give you a little space for it so it has some range. No, it is just the head of a fire axe. You can put it on any like handle you want. So if you put it on a short handle, it's just going to be a tiny little axe. It's still going to be pretty strong, but it's, you know, it's going to be a little short, dinky weapon.
There is something to say about aesthetics in terms of some combinations of weapons do not look pleasant. They don't look good.
A lot of them look really bad, but like that's part of the charm. Like if you want to make something absurd and broken, you do kind of need to like put up with the fact that, you know, I'm playing this as a jank master. I'm ready to be the jank master.
Right. Like when I turned my butcher knife into big head mode, big axe mode, like it looked really goofy, but they leaned into it. They didn't look at that and go, "Oh, we're going to disallow certain combinations of weapons because it just doesn't look right." Like no, if we're going to have this system, we're going to full commit to it, and every weapon that's not a boss weapon is going to be part of the system. And players will let the players decide what they want to do. If you want to value how your weapon looks, you can just use the regular weapons in their forms, or you can find combinations that actually look really nice. Like one of the later weapons is the big curved greatsword that's got like the poison effect on it. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I combined the head on that with one of the earlier weapons that's also like a curved greatsword handle because the gold on them both match, and I was like, this looks really nice. Ultimately, I kind of just went with what I liked using.
Yeah.
And if it looked goofy, it looked goofy.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it with experimenting too, is the problem with Souls games when it comes to experimentation is anything that you make as an investment And there's investment in this too, because if you want to use a blade, you're gonna need to level it up to the point where it's gonna scale damage wise. But at the very least, you can go and put any combination you want together and play around with it first. Like there is just straight up a little combat training place right next to the weapon customization place. They knew what they were doing. They knew people were gonna make weapons and then want to experiment with them first before they like seriously invested a bunch of resources into leveling it up. And I love that level of player freedom. Like if I want to experiment with anything in a Souls game, I need to like make sure I have all of the proper stats for it. I need to make sure I have like I have the resources that I need to level it up if I want to level it up. And I need to like find a place where I can safely fight enemies so I can judge damage amounts so I know what works and what doesn't. Whereas like in Liza P, you can just do it. You can just do it. Yeah. You can put some stuff together. You can make a goofy ass thing that looks goofy just for a fun little time. And that's so nice. It's so nice in this loaded genre.
It's also very, very smart of them to make it so that you only have to upgrade the weapon heads, the weapon blade parts. You don't have to upgrade the handles. So once I leveled up the Tyrant's Dagger and maxed it out, I could put the dagger blade on any of the other handles. I didn't have to level up all the handles too. They looked at the system and they were like, all right, we don't want to like double the amount of resources and investment players have to put in everything. That's absurd. We're just going to pick one of the parts.
You do put the scaling though on the, so there is there is some level of like resource and investment into that, but it is like, it's way less than what you would do otherwise, you know?
Yeah. They didn't put both on both parts. Yes. They put one part on each part.
Yes. So it's like, if you have a handle that you know you like and you are going to use a lot, but you just want to swap the blade out, you can do that and it's going to maintain that scale.
It's such a good system, and it's like, not only did Liza P go, oh, we can do Bloodborne, they were like, we can expand upon the trick weapon like Hunter's Workshop concept, and then they did.
They actually have made a workshop. Last but not least here, this is a very like relatively minor thing. In the grand scheme of different mechanics that have been added. This is another one of those things that was added to a remake, which just sort of like fundamentally changes the remake, which is they added the ability to swap your party members in battle. This is used in a couple different ways. Like not only is it just like, oh, I brought the wrong party member in this battle, I need to swap to them, but it also changes the way a whole bunch of different status effects work, because if you have someone who gets like put to sleep, they're like, you can't use them anymore at that point. They're asleep until you cure the sleep, but you can swap them out. It still gives you the option to swap them out, but that means when they're on the side and they're not being used, they're still asleep. So you, at some point, if you're going to need to use them in that battle again, you're going to need to swap them. So it's not just like a weirdly overpowered mechanic in a game where they have sort of added a bunch of extra mechanics that make it a little too easy. I feel like it fundamentally changes Super Mario RPG like for the better in a lot of ways. And I really wish like as much as I sort of don't enjoy the super attacks and the combo meter on the side that adds like a whole bunch of extra modifiers and stuff, I think those fundamentally make the game way too easy. The party swapping is so smart, because in the original Mario RPG, there was sort of really like no reason to use a character like Mallow, because Mallow isn't as good at specific things. Like he can heal, but he can't heal as well as Peach. He can do damage, but he can't damage as well as like Geno or Bowser. So your options are, you kind of just never use him in your party, And now, because you can swap, he becomes a way better party member. Like, as a result, you can like really specialize into what you want him to do. See, this is the part where both Gino and Bowser died, so they're just swapping them on the fly out to other party members. It's so useful. It's such a good mechanic.
I'll say.
No, go ahead.
And also, Culex is hot now.
That's really important. I was gonna say, Sea of Stars does this too, and like it's a little bit encouraged with like the combo mechanic, but it is so nice. It is so. It makes every battle. It's like, it doesn't. I guess in some ways it can make it easier, but it just makes it flow so much more smoothly.
It's way more interesting too because doing like that is a tactical decision that you make. Like you can't just swap them out freely. If you swap someone, like you can't swap them again, or you can't swap that other person back in too soon.
Yeah,
it just won't let you. So you like really need to think like if I'm gonna swap, I need to like make sure this is the right choice.
Yeah.
It's such a cool tactical decision compared to the original, which was I'm gonna stick with 3 party members, which was usually either Mario, Gino, or Peach, or Mario, Bowser, and Peach. Now, sort of because of the party swapping mechanic, Peach is still a really good character. Obviously, she's an excellent healer, but because she's such a good healer, you kind of don't really want to use her for attacking as much. You can swap her out to Bowser or to Mallow, like anytime like you don't really need healing at the moment. So Peach gets less play as a result. 2 party.
Yeah.
The only like weird limitation to this person just opted not to switch because they thought like leaving Gino in there is probably a smarter call, even though they can't use them right now. Which is again another tactical decision for you to utilize with the party switching mechanic, which just wasn't in the original game. That's the big emphasis on this. It's really cool. It's such a smart addition, and I think like it also just fundamentally makes the team feel like more of a whole because you're seeing a lot more of them more frequently. There's a part here where they did a bunch of. Yeah, because also because like you can utilize Mallow more. Like not only does he become like is he a party member that you can swap to when another character is down, you can also specialize him better. All 3 characters wiped out. Mallow just immediately comes in. That's the helpfulness there of the party swapping mechanic. Not only like does make him like a little bit more useful, it also like lets you specialize him better. And the build variety in this game is not huge, but there is an option that lets you try and like build characters out, like flesh them out more. And if you sort of specialize Mallow specifically in magic attacks, he becomes such an effective magical attacker. It's so unreal how much more useful that they have made Mallow in this game, especially considering like they didn't even like really fundamentally change him. They just added this mechanic that lets you use him more. It's really cool. They're swapping back out to Gino. Really smart stuff here. You want to make sure your docked characters are healed and ready to go, because if they're not, like if you die with the 3 characters you have, you're just gonna lose. So you're thinking about not only how do I keep my 3 characters on the field alive, how do I keep my other characters in reserve alive as well. It's so neat how much it like changes the game up. It matters mostly in big, like, difficult fights like this one, which is honestly the last boss you are probably going to be fighting. But it's neat. It's such a cool little change that they made that like drastically changes the game up.
Yeah.
I love how much added flexibility there is to it. But yeah, that's all I really had to say about that.
Yeah. No, it's really good. I've been
Love it.
like watching my girlfriend play a ton and just like, oh,
The beauty of it too is like when you're healing, when you're like in this healing phase, you can't heal characters that are on reserve. You need to have them out on the party. So like you have to take the drastic decision to actually swap someone out to make sure they're healed. The only limitation is you can't ever swap out Mario. Mario is on the field at all times. So
Oh, like it makes sense.
like I wish you could swap him out because I think that would create like more interesting party dynamics, but also Mario is like kind of I don't want to say the strongest character, but he is pretty much the strongest character, so there's not really any reason to switch him out. I just wish you got that option because I think that would make the like it would make it way more dynamic. All right, our next category is most disappointing. Blue. It's so sad what they've done. Ugh. John, why has Raincoat disappointed you so much?
Ugh. All right. So,
the big gun, here we go.
yeah. Oh, how can I count the ways? Look, this game really put into perspective for me that I think that Kodaka is just a hack who got lucky.
Wow.
That is what I am starting to feel. Like straight up.
My opinion is that he's the inverse of Urobuchi, where Urobuchi got better over time, right? Like he started getting into his puppets or something and found true love. And then like this is the other path of the nihilist weirdo game designer.
There is this feeling of hatred throughout this game towards the people who would play these games, towards the people who enjoy having these sorts of experiences, to people who have morals, to people who have opinions about the previous mystery games that Kodaka has made. Like, dude just feels so pissed that he still has to keep making murder mystery games still to this day. And it's like, motherfucker, you are actively choosing to do this. He is like, it's like he's taking a fucking like, it's like he's sticking a fucking razor blade under his fingernail and he's slamming it on the table and he's just like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? This is your fault. This is your fault. I keep doing this. Like, no, dude, you're doing it. I'm not fucking doing anything to you. Stop
I know,
doing this to yourself. Like,
I know next to nothing about Raincoat. I played V3. We had strong opinions about V3 when
I had strong opinions.
we had very strong opinions. I think over time I have sort of eased up a bit on how I feel about V3. I still think it's a bad ending for the most part, but like I respect the bold swings it's trying to make. So hearing that Raincoat is more of the worst of that, or potentially more of the worst of that, is not very
I don't even
enlightening.
think it's anything. Is the thing about Raincoat that really gets me? It's nothing.
No,
it's
tell
just
me about
nothing at every turn.
Tell me about it. I really want to know more about this game.
The main character's named Yuma Coco Head.
Yuma Coco Head is.
It is a good name.
He's a rookie detective, and he's got to solve a bunch of murders. And whenever you solve the murder, the person who did it gets killed. And
oh, good.
Yeah, and they don't really wrestle with that at all.
They just have Yuma be like, this is sad, and then he seems to get over it, and then it happens again, and he goes, this is sad, every single chapter, forever.
Everyone's just like, well, that's exactly how it should be, you know? It shouldn't, there shouldn't even be, like, any kind of judicial understanding, like, you know, even if you have a positive opinion on the death penalty, I feel like even then you'd look at this and be like, it's a little much, don't you think? They basically made a new Junko, but she's like a little less. She's not evil, and she's like goth.
Okay.
And
she's more cringe.
and she
Okay.
fucking sucks.
Oh, okay.
She sucks.
It's really sad because early on, I think like the first chapter, she seems fine. The
Yeah.
prologue or whatever, she seems fine. Just
And then after that, 85% of her dialogue is just her being like, that fucking bitch, that skank, I'm way hotter than her. I've got big tits. She's flat. Why don't you pay
that's
more
the
attention to
main
me?
one.
That
Is she
skank.
just calls every single woman a flat-chested uggo? That's the exact word. She calls every single woman that, and it's just exhausting. Like people will die, and she's still doing that.
Yeah, you're
it
in
will
the middle
seem
of...
like she's started to get along with a character, and then she'll just do it again in the next scene because there's no consistency and nothing matters.
People die, and Yuna tells them they're a flat-chested uggo.
So sad. I hate to see women tear each other down like that.
The mysteries are also so poorly paced too. Like you'll
Figure it
go
out
into,
like immediately, and then it will go through a like 3-hour long sequence of Yuma being like, I don't get it.
yeah, the answers will be really apparent. They're not difficult. I mean, you're going around collecting all the evidence, so you start to piece it together. And something like Ace Attorney, like the reason why Ace Attorney works with that is because they will introduce new evidence as time goes on, or you'll get stuff through testimony, that sort of thing. Like they figured out how to make that work. In this game, you get everything. They don't add anything new. All you're doing is literally just laying it all out. And you have to sit there and watch the characters be like, I don't get it. How could that happen? And it's like, because of this piece of evidence, we know this already. Like, can we move on? Like, it's just, you're having to just sit there and piece every little bit out. It's like, you know how in Danganronpa there were the like denouement things at the end where it was like, okay, yeah, you're gonna piece together exactly how it went down.
The worst part, yeah.
It's like the entire mystery is that, and then they have you actually do that at the end of it too.
That's really depressing because like the thing that's cool about Ace Attorney and Danganronpa games is the trials are a good excuse to watch the story of this thing play out in real time, you know? And if it's much less like that and it's more like actually piecing things together from what you have, that's just way less interesting, I suppose.
I mean, there's ways to do that. You know, there are ways to put together a mystery and solve it and then have it be, but like, it's the fact that it's all laid out for you and you have to go through the motions of presenting it to not just you, but like other people. And then there are like 3 or 4 other mini games that you have to go through to just clear up any like little itty bitty inconsequential moment. It's like, oh, I couldn't have been, like, you know, the kind of thing where it's like, I couldn't have been there at 10 o'clock. I go to sleep at 9, and then like you have to do like a full fucking mini game to just be like, the clock was off by an hour. Like, just say it. You could just say it.
Right.
There's 2 things that really get me about it. Is one, Ace Attorney makes you review, like, go through an entire testimony before you're allowed to do the objections and, you know, question them. Raincoat just has you doing the mini games in real time, and you just have to make guesses in real time as to what
that's
they're doing.
frustrating.
Yeah, even Danganronpa has you go through it before you fire the truth bullets. Yeah, they don't even do that in this one. Yeah.
The other thing is it's so exhaustive. It's so they go into everything and they make you do everything, and then when you finish everything, they make you fill out. And I thought this one was cute the first time it happened, where you fill out a motion comic style thing of like, hey, here's what happened when. Here's the timeline of the crime happening, right?
Yeah, they do that in Danganronpa also. Yeah.
Yeah. And they did that, and I was like, okay, yeah. But then they fucking, after you do that and you see the whole thing happen, they then go through an unskippable, you can't like advance the dialogue faster or anything, fucking like 5-minute long cutscene where they then just say everything again.
Yep.
Yeah, they also, again, they do that in Danganronpa, but again, part of the reason why that wasn't as bad was because they didn't lay it out so exact in Danganronpa. Like,
I mean, and you could skip this. dialogue in Danganronpa also.
Well, that too, but I mean, like they've in Danganronpa, it was very specifically to be like, okay, you piece together how this could go down, and you have proven enough of it. This is how it
What's the
happened.
character? Yeah, or what's the character reaction to this, or something like that is what they would do.
Exactly. And in this one, it's just like, well, you figured it out. Now you get to watch it again. Like it's so exhausting. The characters are so bad in this game. Like there's a couple of them that I kind of liked, but like yeah, like fucking Shinigami is horrible. They have a fucking like sex offender pedophile detective guy that you have to hang out with a lot. It's so fucking bad. Like
The one that really got me was just when they randomly kill off one of the main characters in like chapter 3, and it's like, or chapter 4 or something, and it's like, dog, this isn't Danganronpa. These characters haven't had anything happen, and none of this makes sense as to why this is occurring. And like Danganronpa thrives off of that randomness, right? And then you have like the mode afterwards where you get to talk to people more or whatever and do the slice of life bullshit.
Yeah.
But it's like there's none of that here, so it's just like, and they act like there is all that pathos, and it's just so.
Yeah, because like part of the reason, like legit, part of the reason why Danganronpa 2 I think is so much better than 1 is just because they do give you enough time to get used to the characters. Like it's not like a shit ton of time, but they give you a little bit to learn about the characters before they do the first murder. Like Danganronpa 1, like that is something that's a little bad, is that they don't really give you enough time to like really get to know the characters before the first murder happens. And in 2 they fix it. In this game, they kill someone like 4 or 5 chapters in, but you still you don't get to hang out with these characters. Like if there were bits where it's just like, oh, well, because like there are like little things where it's like, oh yeah, no, here we're gonna go hang out, and like it leads up to the story, but they killed the character that you specifically don't hang out with.
Yeah, that, and there's the last dungeon, quote unquote, the last chapter of that game is you walking through a factory while a guy on the intercom just narrates the entire explanation for the story to you, and then you have to do an entire dungeon after that where you then just repeat everything that guy's been telling you for 2 hours again. Made me feel insane. To the guy that you just told you all of this stuff. And then they do like an epic like, haha, didn't you notice the blood was pink? That's not normal. And it's like, whoa, no one said anything the whole game. You can't do that? Like
crazy.
Yeah, that like it sucks so much.
It thinks it's so smart is the thing that makes me hate it the most. And that's the problem with Kodoka in general, is it really thinks it's like the smartest thing ever, and like every twist is like blowing your mind. And then you go on fucking like see reviews of this game and people are like, it blew my mind. And it's like, this is dire, guys. This is really dire stuff.
It's really dire.
This wouldn't cut it as a Columbo episode, and Columbo tells you who the villain is.
Yeah. It's one of the things that like about like the most disappointing list for the most part is everything was like people absolutely losing their minds with how much they loved these things. Every review I was looking at was positive. And yet I've played this is the first time I've actually played every single game in the most disappointing category. And it is like, it feels like they were reviewed that way for the simple reason that of who made the game. Oh, it's the Danganronpa guy. We love Danganronpa, so this is a solid 8 out of 10. This is brilliant. And it's like, no, like people can do bad. It's the weirdness.
No, some people just have really bad taste. Like,
yeah,
I just think
that's what I was
people
gonna say.
just don't engage with mystery stuff at all. It's just a genre thing, right? It's the thing that happens with every genre. Is like you get people who have never played anything in the genre. You get like visual novels. This happens to all the time, and then they play one, and they're like, "Wow, I've never seen anything like this before." So,
yeah,
I think it's the most amazing, and it's like, oh man.
The other thing too is like people fucking loved the ending to V3, and I And I know people. I still haven't watched the Danganronpa anime, and I've heard very mixed
dog
things
shit.
about
It's
it. Yeah,
fucking
you
horse
hate it,
shit.
but like I know people whose opinions I respect who've been like, oh yeah, it's excellent, and it's like, well, like I really wonder like how people engage with these things because I think
Yeah.
based on what you've told me about it, I have a feeling I probably would not like this game very much.
No, I'm surprised that people like it at all. Is my thing because I think like
It's not even like fun to engage with.
that's my thing. Is I have exceeding patience with video games. I have maybe some of the most patience of any gamer. Like I will do like
you are the Neptunia freak.
yeah, like I've reviewed the fucking Neptunia games for us, and I 100% them every fucking time I do. Like I can put up with anything. And this game, I was just exhausted at all times, and I'm like, how are people who I ask to like read a short book, and they're like, I can't do that. Like they're all playing this game. Like what? Like especially on the fucking Switch, it runs so bad.
It runs pretty bad. I was so fucking miserable playing through this. I was like, I gotta do it. This is my burden. I gotta do it, and I did
The
it. and
load
it-
times were just like unreal. It was like you would go through a door, it would take a full minute to fucking load. Yuma Coco Head says one fucking thing and it goes back to a loading screen. I didn't want to believe that John, because John, like I don't like the V3 either, but I was like, when John was talking about it, I was like, well, I should see for myself because I know John's really hated V3.
Yeah,
But then, and I was just like, fine, I'll do it with my girlfriend, and it was just like, oh my god, no, it really is so fucking bad. It really is just not good.
I don't want to like relitigate V3 again because we've done that as a site
I know.
so much. But it's
I'm
like
not trying to.
I'm saying that for myself right now because I'm so ready to talk about V3. But it is also this matter of like, man, there's a lot of like really bad impulses for the ending of V3. But the upside is that game, at least up until that point, is still a really good Danganronpa game. And then you get to the ending, and the ending is just like, why did they do it like this? There's interesting twists there, but the conclusions that it makes, what it wants you to sit with, none of it is particularly interesting, and a lot of it feels very shallow. And I wonder, like, you said that Raincode does the like pointing at the player, you did this, like you like this kind of shit thing again. Is that in the text, or is it just like, is that just
That's
the
just
vibe?
the whole vibe of the whole game.
Really?
That's just the
Okay.
whole vibe is just I would say the whole thing is just so disinterested. It really gets me because
I'm gonna spoil one of the cases because this was the point where I realized that it was unsalvageable.
Okay.
So I think it's the third case.
I've heard every single time I've heard something about the third case. It's just that it's the dirt worst. Nobody seems to like it.
It's the
Even
pervert one. It's the one where they have the pervert character around.
Yeah. So the pervert character is a master of disguise. So you have to enter an all-girls school in a disguise. Yuck it up, yada, whatever. And of course, he is extremely horny about it the entire time. He's horny for the teachers. He's horny for the students. He straight up is basically just like, Yuma, if we were on the clock, I would be taking you into an alleyway right now, and that would be it. Like, he's basically just straight up saying that. It's fucked. Then you actually get to the mystery, and the general conceit of it is that you show up to the school to investigate an apparent suicide that this girl is thinking, no, it couldn't have been. Something else must be up. I'd like for you to help investigate the scene, see if this was the case. And while you're there investigating, another girl is killed in the middle of a play rehearsal. So you do the whole investigation, the whole shebang, and you find out that the girl who was killed during the rehearsal was the one who pushed the girl off the roof. So yeah, it wasn't a suicide, and the murder was the murder was done to avenge the girl who fell from the roof because the cops wouldn't do anything about it. They wouldn't actually investigate. Like the police are like, fascist, corrupt. it's all the stuff that they are in real life, maybe turned
course,
a little
yeah,
bit
yeah.
to 11, that sort of deal. But then the game just basically like you solve the mystery, and then you're just sitting there like, well, they basically had to do this because there was no justice, and this murderer was walking free, and it was like it was their friend. They felt like they had to do this because there is no justice in this world. And the game, instead of there being any real like conversation about it, any real interrogation of it, because obviously there is a conversation between like, oh hey, maybe that's not actually like fair, maybe someone shouldn't, like an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind, that kind of stuff. But instead, Shinigami's just like, well, okay, we're gonna reap all of them, and then you do it, and then Yuma's just kind of like, man, that sucks that's how it's gotta be. Oh well.
God.
And that's it.
And that's not even like something that's like really addressed at all in the story. Like, that feels like that would be a major point of what the game is trying to get across, and it's like, what?
It's
like,
just, well, that's how it is.
That's
we
insane.
solved the case, and that's how it is. And as soon as I got to that, I knew that it was completely irredeemable. Like I said, if there was a conversation about it, if Yuma was like troubled by this, or if he was trying to stop it from happening, or if he was trying to if he was wrestling with himself to like, oh, should I really do this and all that stuff, like there's a little teeny tiny bit, but he moves on from it so fast because he's just like, no, justice needs to be given. They murdered someone, so that automatically means it's just, there's no moral questioning, there's no actual interrogation of themes. It is just, here is this thing that is happening, that's it.
It's just so weird to me because right before that, Rain Code, he did Akudama Drive, which is an anime, and I don't think Akudama Drive is like a banger, don't get me wrong, but it is a cyberpunk like mystery thing that it is actually using themes and like has obvious political ideas and leanings and stuff like that. And it's just like, how did you like become worse in like the span of like a year? It's just baffling. I don't know why he made this game. There's no love in it at all.
Yeah.
Like, you don't feel like anyone actually cared about making. I think the closest you feel to that is seeing like the sprite work on the characters, because they did like fun little sprites, not the 3D models. The 3D models all look really bad, genuinely. Yeah. And I don't know why he decided this was going to be his first 3D game, because it looks worse than a PS2 game, unironically. Like,
yeah,
people say that a lot, but it really, really does.
And also if we're just gonna, I'm just gonna say it, Masafumi Takada did not cook on this one. There's no standout music in this game. Such a fucking bummer.
That's the fucking nail in the coffin right there.
No matter how much I feel like frustrated the V3, or how gross all that stuff was in Ultra Despair Girls, those soundtracks are still really fucking good. Like I will buy the CDs for those games. No shit. But no way for Rain Code. Like, there's no good, like, it's like, it's not like ear grating, but there's nothing that like
just
stands out
there's
at all.
Going
it's
on
just,
in it.
Yeah, it's just background filler all throughout. Like, he did not put any effort into it. What a shame.
I will say one thing that was good about it mostly is I think the dub performances were pretty good. That's like the only thing. Like, I think it's a lot of new people and they were doing a pretty good job. And I was like, man, you are being wasted here. Like, straight up, like, there is no reason for you to go that hard on like being Chief Yako or whatever, when they're just gonna fucking do nothing with you.
That is depressing.
Now, Lorelai, you have talked up Wolong so much during these deliberations, specifically how cool the Lubu fight is. I've heard about that a lot.
Yeah, you'll hear about that a lot, because it's the epitome of that game.
So, why is it in most disappointing for you?
It is in most disappointing because, like, as you know, I am a huge fan of Game of the Generation Neo 2.
Of course.
I wanted more from that. I wanted an evolution, and like when you first jump in those early betas, the first boss is a really good impression of this game. It opens really strong with a really good first level and first boss, but then you figured out the system, because you have to figure out the system to beat the first boss.
Of course.
So like it's a regression from Neo 2 in a lot of ways, but I still like it. But it's a situation where they have fixed it in patches to a degree, but the
No.
launch game they have a little bit.
A little
There's like
bit.
difficulty modes that you can turn on now and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Well, no, here's the thing. Unlike Neo 2, when they added difficulties through the DLC, in Neo 2, they added enemy attack patterns. They changed the enemy placement and things like that with each subsequent level of difficulty. In this, it's exactly the same levels, just scaled up in damage you take.
Yeah, because it's they wanted to go. This is what makes me concerned about the Rise of Ronin game a little bit. Is it's just like they really wanted to course correct into the accessibility, because I think they probably take super seriously the amount of people who complain about Neo 2 being unapproachable, but I feel like they misunderstand that the thing that makes Neo 2 unapproachable is the fucking gear sets.
Is
Like,
the
genuinely?
fact that it's fucking Diablo.
It's the fact that they front load the Diablo shit when they should be backloading it.
Yeah, it is that, and it's also like the controls are really like it controls very well once you learn the system.
Yeah, but you have to learn.
You have to learn
like a Souls like.
Yeah, you have to learn. It takes it has a like a big barrier to entry, and then on top of that, they're putting these absurdly, almost like extremely annoying loot systems on top of it that make it like,
and it's just like you don't actually need to think about it, right?
No.
Like until you get to the end game when you want to make a build, and it's just like I feel like that's the lesson they should have taken with this, and instead they were like, oh yeah, the problem was that it was too easy, right? It was too hard, right? So we should just make everything super easy.
Like, I mean, the thing is some of the things they did with that are why I love Wolong. Like the fact that you can parry everything. I nominated that for best mechanic for a fucking reason. The fact that I feel like I'm fucking Evo moment 37 every time I'm fighting a boss feels fucking awesome.
And I like the leveling system for each bonfire, where you have to, feels like the Three Kingdoms bit of like, hey, you are going through and you are dominating this area and becoming stronger by gaining a foothold, as it were.
Yeah. It's like conceptually there are so many cool things in this game. But I think one of the most recent DLCs like brought up its biggest issue, which is that, well, first of all, if you thought the magic system in Neo broke the game, in this it's just like it literally makes it like even the hardest difficulty is baby mode if you have the right build, because you're just constantly stunning the enemy. Like I have a lightning build that even enemies that are strong against lightning, I stun in one combo. It feels like they learned a lot of the wrong lessons, because the gear system is even more obscure. The lack of variety. You play a weapon, that's what the weapon plays like. You don't have variations of it. Like in Neo, after you beat the first difficulty, it unlocked like, that's when the gear system really opens up, because suddenly you're getting like, instead of getting tonfas, you're getting fucking gun tonfas and shit like that. Whereas in Wolong, it's just, you have a spear, it plays like a spear. You have a staff, it's the exact same combo on every single one. The only difference is you have the martial arts tied to it, which could be cool, but the fact that the entire game is based around getting those big stun hits kind of takes away from it, because there's no point to using the martial arts, because they don't build up the stun bar that much. They lock you in animations, and like it's an entire system that you should barely interact with, because it isn't good. Even though some of those moves look cool as hell, they still do no damage. Because when you are hitting somebody and they aren't in a broken mode, you do no damage. Like, your damage is so little that even going back to early levels with like an overpowered weapon, regular enemies still take time. If you don't just bait out the red attack and hit them, it's really frustrating how over reliant on their gimmick they are in a way that takes away from the whole package. And like I said, the added difficulties and the added stages they've added, each of the DLCs in Neo weren't massive, but they felt substantive. In this, they feel you get like 1 or 2 new enemies. You get a couple of boss fights which aren't good. Like the DLC boss fights are not that good. There are a couple of pretty solid ones, but they're still like in Neo, I could say there were like 2 bosses that I did not like at all. In this one, I can list like half the bosses that I think are incredibly boring fights or just not fun. And that sucks. Like, the big enemies in this one are even fucking worse than in Neo 2. Neo 2, when you fought that big fucking castle, that fight sucks. That is just miserable garbage fight. In this, there are 3 of those in just the base campaign. And then there are more in the DLC. And then the DLC gave me the ability to fight Mizuki, and I was like, damn, I really want to go play Neo 2 now, because that game's so much better. Like Wolong is a good game. It's like but it's one that I kept engaging with when DLC came out because I wanted to see it get to the point where Neo 1 got at the end of its DLC cycle. Like, Neo 1 was not a great at release game, but by the end of its DLC, it was pretty good. It wasn't great like Neo 2 was, and then Neo 2 at the end of its DLC was fantastic.
I'm gonna push you on that because I thought Neo is an excellent game. I enjoyed it like top to bottom, and I never touched it.
The DLC is great.
For 1, really?
Yeah, I loved 1.
Okay. The DLC for 1 is all great.
I've heard it's really good.
Moves. I mean, it added the damn weapons.
It added the Sephiroth sword. I know that.
The Adachi, yeah.
Yeah.
It is like really, really good. But this one, like, the thing about the DLC from Neo was, as I said before, as you go up in difficulty, like, you do the first difficulty up and it's just the same game scaled up.
Right.
But you go to Dream of the Demon, and all of a sudden, there's different enemy placements. There's bigger enemies where the little guys used to be,
like
things like that.
They have an entire mode that's like completely remixing all the levels that you've been already.
Exactly. It makes it feel better. And then the next DLC above that did even more of that, started adding the DLC enemies into the early levels and things like that. So all of a sudden the game is just really, really mixed up. Added more attack patterns for all the enemies. And then the final one does even more of that and takes out a lot of the big glowy stuff.
Oh, that's
like
interesting.
And it feels fucking incredible. Wolong has all those extra difficulties, and it's just the same game, but stats scaled up.
Yeah, that is really shitty.
So if you were really good at the base game, that there are a couple of bosses that I did do no damage runs of, because I just got their attack patterns down and could just parry everything. I was able to do the same thing on that final difficulty that they added, because once you know the patterns, it's baby mode.
Mm-hmm.
It feels bad because, like, their previous games, built up as the DLC came out, and this one just kept getting progressively more and more disappointing to me. Like, all of the good stuff that Wolong did in their patches and DLCs was just quality of life stuff. Like, oh, you can recharge your arrows when you hit a flag now, instead of it not doing that when it launched, and it sucked. I nominated it for so many good things, but it's so fucking disappointing.
Yeah.
Like, it's something that I still go back and play Neo 2 and Neo 1, and I still have fun with those. I have no intention of ever going back to Wolong. I still go back to Stranger of Paradise. That game fucking rules.
Sure.
Like, I
Why not?
genuinely love that game, especially Chaos. Some of the shit they added towards the end, fucking awesome. How do you mess up, like, the thing that made your games great was the stuff
Yeah.
you like that made it replayable? You don't have any of that.
I hate trying to like draw equivalents to like the FromSoft lineage, but to me this always felt like it felt like their approach to a Sekiro style thing, where they're taking their formula that they already have and trying to streamline it in ways that make sense while still being its own like unique mechanical identity. And I get the vibe that this doesn't succeed nearly as well.
No, it does not, and it's sad because, like, I mean, I had a lot of fun when I first streamed through that game.
Yeah.
The more I think about it, the less I like it.
Right.
Because the issues I have with it are so built into its core design philosophy that it can't overcome that with the amazing things that it does.
Right. So I don't know how much more. This is tough. I don't know how much more I can say about why AEW Fight Forever is so fucking sad that I haven't said in my initial review. And I think like I wrote that review before the game came out. So now we've had time to sit. You've had time to take it in, to breathe it in. You've had time for them to do more content releases. They're actively in season 3 of DLC or something, season 2. The DLC being pretty much just character packs, and the character packs are like one character at a time. And that's all there is for like a couple months. I'm going to be honest, I have not gone back to that game very frequently throughout the year, because I was so burned out on it when it came out. And there was a while where I was just booting it up and I was just like looking at moves and stuff, because it's fun to just look at moves, you know? And I was messing around, toying around with different things, and just like every single time I booted that game up, I always just saw all of the worst parts of it. And I don't think it has gotten considerably better in terms of what you can actually do in that game. Like, I don't think there's more robust wrestler management. I don't think there's an actual like general manager mode yet or anything. The big thing about why AEW Fight Forever sucks is because wrestling games right now, they just suck. Like, they're just bad. It's just a bad environment to be in. The WWE games have only gotten worse. People lied and said they got better. They're wrong. They're absolute fools. They're shitheads. They're dumbasses. I will kill them forever for this. But we're in a weird space right now where there was a chance, there was a hope, there was a belief that there just could be a different, better kind of wrestling game. You know? It could really like do something different. And AEW Fight Forever, compared to those new WWE games, I understand why when it came out people were very excited, because the thing Fight Forever does really well is, even if it's missing a whole bunch of core features you should expect from a game like this, there's still a bunch of wacky shit in there. and also people who don't play wrestling games regularly, they can just pick it up and play it pretty normally. I think the controls are just as bad and more annoying, and if not more annoying than the controls of WWE games at this point. But that's a completely different story because people at least were able to pick it up and do really silly shit out of nowhere. Like one of the things people discovered pretty early on, because they gave codes of that game out to people, to influencers early, and influencers went out of their way to only show the things that they were allowed to show. And one of the things they were allowed to show was, oh, there's just a functioning skateboard in this game. There's a functioning skateboard that you can get on and you can do tricks on, you can do spins, and also, like, if you do a big fucking, like, flip with it, you can just smash into someone. And that's fun. Like, that's a fun, goofy thing. And there's a whole bunch of fun, goofy things like that. But the game also just is missing the ability to apply textures to characters at all. Period. So you just can't make any custom wrestlers at all. There is a custom wrestler feature, but you can't use it. There's nothing in there to do. It's insane. And as far as I know, none of the, like, big structural stuff this game needed to be successful ever got added. All they did was add new characters. They added that Battle Royale mode, the fucking Stadium Stampede mode. I like streamed that one time, and I found nothing but fully empty lobbies with, like, one other person in it. And it's fucking sad. And it's like, it's not even like a fun mode to play. I'm so shocked that this game has stuck around for a while and people just haven't, like, I mean, for the most part, people have just, they've gotten tired of it and stopped playing it, you know? Because otherwise, there would have been people in the Battle Royale mode when I played it, but I don't know, the initial press wave that hit of, like, really positive reception and so many people being like, oh wow, it's a return to, like, the No Mercy type games. It's dumb fun. It's like, yeah, sure, like, dumb fun's fun and all, but, like, try to do anything else in that game and you're gonna be sorely fucking disappointed. And then, as weeks rolled on, I'm not a person who checks Reddit very often, but I did see, like, Reddit posts from the AEW game Reddit, and it was just people being fucking frustrated and disappointed in this game because it's lacking all of the most important features that you need for a wrestling game. And I felt fucking crazy being the guy pointing all of that out from the start, and I had friends of mine going, you're just being negative. This isn't that deep. No, you dumbass. Like, It drove me insane. It drove me crazy.
True to the wrestling fan experience from my outside viewpoint is I feel like you see just one person will be like, this seems pretty bad, and everyone will be like, no, it's not, it's fine. And then the match happens and everyone goes, that was the worst fucking thing I've ever seen in my goddamn life. What is wrong with them?
That's and like, see, I'm somebody that actually doesn't hate the new WWE games that much. Like, I don't think they're great, but I don't think they're as bad as you make them out to be. Like, I don't think they're getting
hate
worse.
Them. I despise them.
I think they're getting better, but I still think they're bad.
Yeah.
But this one was, I buy every wrestling game that comes out because I am a weirdo who likes to use character creators and make really funny shit.
Yeah.
This game was miserable. It's the first game I've returned on Steam. I saw the character creator for 2 seconds and I went, oh yeah, fuck this.
It's insane.
Fuck this to hell.
It's
oh
insane
my God.
that they have a character creator in there, and it's so fucking banal that, like, they didn't just go, well, we should just get rid of this, you know? I feel like the game would actually be improved if there wasn't character creation, because at least you wouldn't have the slap in the face of, oh, well, I can just make my own character. Oh, wait, no, I can't. You know?
It's so bad. It's baffling. It's I do not understand how it came out in the way it did.
I feel like I have a good
and
understanding
how-
at this point of it just being like an under-resourced, overworked team who also just had like big language barriers from the people in America, and also like the people in America being like, well, we need this shit out now, what's taking so long? So just like major features get scrapped before they're even anywhere near prepared. They were trying to rebuild the entire like WWE games engine in Unreal, and that's an insane prospect. Obviously, you're gonna have to use a different engine because you can't just use that engine again. Like you don't. I mean, I don't know what the ownage rights are for that. I assume Ukes has to own like some part of it because they reuse so many animations from those WWE games. It feels like the kind of thing where if Ukes didn't explicitly own these animations, that there should have been some sort of legal dispute between them. But there isn't. And that's fine. Like, that's okay. I don't mind reuse of animations, but the fact that there's so much of it and it's all throughout that entire moveset for that game, it makes it just feel like a cheap knockoff more than anything else. It's so sad. It should have been such a good game.
Well, the fact that they added things that could have been cool. I'm sorry, you tell me the Stadium Stampede thing.
It sucks
I'm
so
like,
bad.
hell yeah, that's so cool, especially with Rumbleverse being dead.
It should be cool. It's frustratingly terrible.
It's just the whole thing is, as I said, it's the first game that I've ever requested a refund on. I can put up with a lot of fucking garbage. I am very much Rose in that regard, but I'm not willing to review a Neptunia game.
Well, so then you won't get surprised when Neptune starts going on her rant about the fucking expansion pack or whatever the hell, the booster pack for the Sega Genesis, and you'll be
He's
like,
gonna
what
start
the hell's
talking
going
about
on?
how the Bloodline is the best storyline in WWE history.
Oh my god, it's insufferable how bad that game, how underbaked and just bad that game is. It came out like 2 years too early.
And it's like, it was just really sad seeing it come out to such like high praise, because it tells you what the state of wrestling games is right now, right? Like, this game sucks dirt shit, and at the first week of launch, people ate it up because that story mode is really silly. Like, I'm not like, a lot of people were like, oh, did they do Yakuza with wrestlers? No, they didn't fucking do that. But they did put a whole bunch of wrestlers in silly cutscenes, and you're just interacting with these dudes in fun ways. You get Chris Jericho on January 6th talking about how he's gonna do something at the Capitol, you know? It's just like truly insane shit. And it's like the fact that it plays so goofy, and the story mode itself is so underbaked that it's hard not to like feel charmed by it. Is like, yeah, if you're people who play wrestling games, and this is like the first thing in a while that's different from a WWE game, yeah, I understand why people were like, finally, like, thank God there's something else. And then but then, like, as I predicted in my fucking review before it came out, there was no longevity to it. And everyone fell off, and everyone started complaining about how much it sucked. And I was justified. Again. Finally. No one listens to me. No one listens until it's too late. Until I'm right. It was so frustrating. That's gamers.
It's so sad too, because you needed a win.
Yeah, we need it. My people are dying. We're so hungry. Rose, do you want to talk about Final Fantasy 16?
Yeah, Final Fantasy 16 is a great example of why I think misogyny ruins things, and you can't just say that, like, it's not just a case of like, you know, like, well, this is unfortunate for women. It's like this is a result of like this is what happens when you have a writer who actively is like an idiot, I guess. I don't know, for lack of a better. I've been complaining about this guy for years. To reference,
Yes.
Final Fantasy 16 is written by the Final Fantasy Heavensward writer, which I remember back when Heavensward was out. I was on this fucking website talking about how I hated him because he just does things like kills women for no reason and refuses to like engage with like women who have had you know, like character arcs or things that have happened to them before. Just like remove them entirely, just relegate them to like background, or like always very tragic things happen to them and you have to feel sad, and that's it. And I think that's what goes wrong with Final Fantasy 16 more than anything.
Yeah.
People talk about how it goes away from the real politics or whatever, and that's what causes the problem. And I disagree. I don't think that's the problem realistically.
I think that's the part where the game actually gets good, when it stops being so up its own fucking ass about wanting to be Game of Thrones, and it just goes, we're a Final Fantasy game.
See, I don't even think it's the Game of Thrones, it's the tactics, because these people did work on tactics, a lot of the people who worked on FF16. And it's like a lot of it is the tactic stuff, but then it's just so underbaked because again, the guy hates women. So he decided for some godforsaken reason that he was going to make the main, I would say the main villainous force of the early arcs.
Clive's mom.
Clive's mom. Thank you.
Clive's stepmom. Sorry.
Yeah, Clive's stepmom, and it's like, all right, that's an interesting villain, and I think she could have had potential at some point. But then it's like the dude hates women, right? So she doesn't get to do anything. When it gets to her time in the story, they just randomly go, "Oh, I'm tired of writing her, so she went crazy now. She's just crazy." Like apropos of nothing, no like analysis of the things. Like
she does go crazy because of the thing that's making everyone crazy. Is the thing.
But like the thing is like the other people got cool boss fights or something, and then she's just like, "I'm killing myself now," which is like, okay, none of the other guys did that though. So it's just like, I'm bored of this. I don't want to write anymore. Which happens the most with Jill. I feel like people know Jill. This by now. I don't need to get all the way into it, but it's like,
I'm sorry.
This
we
is
do have to talk about Jill.
Shiva woman that this guy has ruined like this.
Yeah.
The other one was
Final Fantasy 14, my favorite fucking character in that game, just completely misused. Like, and her part of the story's done. She's fucking dead.
She was made by the woman who wrote Shadowbringers. Who went on to write Shadowbringers, the one everyone likes.
The fact that she openly talks about like how pissed off she is that people keep killing every single character she's created is just like, yeah, it's
and
like,
then they gave that guy the lead writing role on the Final Fantasy game.
We have to talk about Jill. I'm fucking not like, I need to do this. The fact
it's just
that
like,
the fact that like this game starts so I don't want to say like Jill's introduction is like extremely strong, but like the fact that it for like the first half of the game, it builds up such a strong relationship between Jill and Clive. And Jill is there every single step of the way Clive is at. She feels like she feels like not just like a party member, but like she's a deuteragonist. Like she is one of the main characters of this game. She is in there with Clive at every single step of the way. And she has like
but you wouldn't know that from the letters that are still in the game because they seem to be written from another draft where she's not around and they just added her in.
But yeah, no, like, fuck, she, there, like, for so long, through so much of this game, she is such a strong character. I felt like the relationship between her and Clive, it felt more, like, there was a will they, won't they between them, obviously, but it feels so much more subtle, and it feels so much more adult than how it's been handled in other Final Fantasy games. And there's this aspect to it of like, okay, these people like very clearly love each other, but they haven't been able to address it or talk about it candidly at all because they're just so fucking busy. And they're fucking grinding every single day to try and save everyone in this entire world. And I loved that relationship. I felt like it was so strong. And then fucking like 3/4 of the way in, Jill just leaves.
Here,
Clive,
have my power. I'm gone.
inexplicably just have my power.
See, so there's two things I want to say. One is 16 is twice the number that 8 is, and 8 has a better romance. Like,
I've been playing
easily.
through 8, and I've really been enjoying the fucking Squall and Renoa romance.
It's crazy,
it's so
right?
good.
Comparatively,
it's so good.
and that was over 20 years ago. Like, what happened? Like, it's like we're watching a 50s fucking movie or something. Like, and then the other thing is that the thing that really drove me crazy with Jill is she doesn't even get to do her boss fight in her own arc part.
No!
Like, she doesn't get involved with her thing at all. And then the one that really killed me is that the second time that she primes up in the main story really is to fight off Odin, who doesn't transform. And the Odin guy not transforming is able to beat her in her giant god form.
Right.
Because that's how much they hate women in this game. Like, they couldn't give her a win. One win. She loses every single fight that she's in the whole game. Even at the beginning, the tutorial is like playing through the new game plus Final Fantasy difficulty mode. I was just awestruck, like going like, wow, they really never let her win anything. She really lost every single time.
She loses to Clive in her first appearance.
She loses to Titan also, even though she like freezes Titan.
And oh my god, like the point where like she drops off from the story, you could tell like in an earlier draft, like she was probably just supposed to die, right? Like, yeah, like they just weren't even thinking about like keeping her in the story past that point.
Well, I mean,
that's how that guy does it.
I am guessing that he got demanded to change it because every PR tour, when people were interviewing Yoshi P, they kept bringing up that in this guy's writing, Shiva constantly dies and women are always sidelined. It is literally a thing that was brought up multiple times in the press tour for this game. And like, I would not doubt if they actually did like change it, because there are parts where she feels so like, or you know, wasn't, I don't think she was supposed to die early. I just think she wasn't supposed to be around as much.
Like, like they clearly took a knife to the story. Like, you can see all of the iterations of this story, like in how it plays. Out, right? Like there was a version of this game where Jill and what's his name, Joshua, were both playable characters. Yeah, and then that's just like, no, that just doesn't happen.
The thing that gets me about it the most is I didn't mind the pivot at the ending. However, the pivot at the ending comes with no real fanfare and like no real analysis of like they don't even get into the fallen civilization, which I thought was going to be really interesting. Like I thought they were going to really get into like, you know, Final Fantasy VI style. There's like a continent up there or something. Like people used to live on ships and stuff, like, because that's what they talk about, right? They talk about how like there's all these crashed airships and they're actually like whole cities that people used to live in and stuff. But it's like this thing of everything that happens with Ultima at the end of that game is poor man's Shadowbringers. Like, straight up. Like, and you can tell that this dude was just seething that he didn't write Shadowbringers. That he, like, quit FF14 to go work on 16. And he's like, oh no, I can do it. Because it's, like, literally, like, he steals, like, half of the ideas from it. Like,
That's
it's
so
ridiculous. And he does it worse. He does all of it so much worse. And it's like, I think that the parts of this game where they really crush it is like the parts where it's like a fucking platinum game, a Gurren Lagann, like at the end when they do the fist fight, right? And all the like, friends are coming out of him as he's doing all the punches and the quotes and stuff. Like that's like the part of the games that really works. And then it's like, instead you have this
that also
dickhead.
Literally happens in Final Fantasy IV. So.
That's true, yeah. Because that's the best. That's what Final Fantasy's at its best, right? In general, that's why everyone likes 7. It's like this dude is such a fucking dickhead about everything. Like he's like, he really dragged the team down. Like this is what I mean of like, this is why like I always get mad when you hear people talk about like, oh, the game's good but the writing's bad. It's like these two things are connected is the thing. Like, and this is like the ultimate example of like this dude actually like ruined your development, and I
Right.
know that it's this dude because I have watched this dude do this for like 10 years.
And it's not just that the reason it's like the most disappointing thing for me is there are so many hints at a good story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the core of a whole big chunk of this fucking game is like really, really solid, cool ideas that are just executed so terribly because the guy's just not a good writer.
Yeah.
Like overall, like what he is and could be really good at is like a story framer. If you hired him to outline the base core of a story and then hired somebody else
I don't
to
even
write
think
it,
it's just that. I think it's like I'm saying, it's the misogyny. Like
Yeah.
that's what tears
Exactly.
apart his story. Like the second he becomes interested in like because he's good at setting up like the political intrigue of the early parts of this game are really interesting. Like you have all these different sections. You can tell that they researched things like chattel slavery in Europe and like all these other things, and they have interesting ideas on how they want to explore it and dissect it. And then it's like the dude hates women so much that when he puts the women in a position where they control any part of the politics, that just means that politic thing is just not going to be solved or nothing is going to happen. So you just end up with this thing of like, it just ends because he hates women. Like
The thing that kills me about that specifically, the part I always think about every single time when I think about how much I like despise how this game turns out in its narrative, is at the very end. The whole big conceit has been this entire time, oh, nobody can fly, you know? If we could fly, we could get up to that big city up there, and then we could go do the ending. And then Dion is there, and he's like, well, I can fly on Bahamut. And then Clive and Joshua are like, well, we can fly. And then they're just like, well, let's go on up there. And at no point, Jill, who is Shiva, goes, well, I can fly too, guys. Like, the thing about Final Fantasy is having these characters all together in a way that makes it feel like the team is what's bringing everyone together, right? And Final Fantasy 16 is a game about how cool Clive is. And because Clive is so cool, all of the other characters take a back seat as a result. And because Clive is so cool and because they really don't want Jill to die, they just leave her back there. You know? Like, they just leave her on the ship. But she could be up there. She could be up there helping them. And they just don't do it arbitrarily for no reason. It feels so out of spirit for what a Final Fantasy game should be. It feels so out of spirit for what the characters have been up until this point. It's such a like dumb, arbitrary decision that completely undercuts Jill as a character. Even and that's even after they've already completely undercut her in a million different ways. It's just so stupid. It's unreal.
I think it says it all that their idea of mature is that scene where they are just naked and that's all.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's it. That's the only thing that happens is that they are naked. Nothing like actually like sensual happens or like romantic or
They
anything.
roll around a bit on the beach. That's
They
it.
it's like cool.
That was the thing that drove me up the fucking wall, was just they kept talking about it in this way and talking about it in comparison to Game of Thrones and all of that, and it was just like, this isn't adult. This is Final Fantasy VII, but they have sex and say fuck sometimes.
Mm-hmm. They get to say that word.
And it undercut so many of their fucking characters constantly. I'm still like really fucking annoyed by like Benedicta was there. There is there is an interesting character there.
She's a deeply important part of the story, and she's in it
Killed in the first 2 hours.
Every single part of her story takes place after she's died. Like,
I was gonna say
unreal.
like the thing with her is like I dismissed her early on as like, Well, when I was like, all right, we're gonna beat her first, whatever, that's fine. I was like, this is like Toku stuff. This is like a common writer ass thing, like whatever. I can put up with this. But it was the moment when it's like she's dying and she's like, oh, Sid, and I was like, man, come on. Like, she can't have anything. She can't have like a machinations. It has to be like tied to the man and then become about the man's problem. Just like, dude, like, fuck.
I legitimately, the way the writing in that game does a disservice to so many aspects. Like, there's a lot of good in there. Like, everything with Clive, like, pretty much is like fantastic.
Yeah, I like Clive as a character.
I mean, part of that I also think, but part of that I also think is Ben Starr's performance making a subpar script 10 times better than it is.
Like despite everything, Clive still turns out to be a compelling character, even though he is the biggest, strongest man and the coolest guy alive.
Yeah, that's how it should be in Final Fantasy. You know, that's the thing, is like it should always be that. And then it's like, but the thing is, the strongest, coolest guy also has friends.
Yeah.
Remember when Sid pulls out the crystal and Clive stabs it with the knife, and so does Sid, and Jill stands there in the background not doing anything?
God. That's the lampshade to what's gonna happen to her. It's so sad. She's there for so long. She's with you. She's with you the whole game. And it's like there's so many parts. There's so many parts too where it feels like she's as equal of a protagonist to Clive. She has like so many cool, interesting little moments. Their interactions are so good, and then she's just gone.
And she's in a party with you through 90% of the time when you are exploring the world. In fact, the fact that there is a side quest that finishes and goes unlocked Jill as a party member is like the most baffling fucking thing.
There are two things that really got me in recent times thinking. Was one, they updated the game and they added a few things to it over the, like, just little quality of life things. One of the things is you can see Torgal's thought, which means that Torgal has more thoughts on the state of the realm chart that everyone has thoughts on than Jill. Jill doesn't really have any sort of like connection to anyone or like changing message. It just sort of says like protects or stays with, like, for Clive, and then like that one woman who never appears again. And then the other thing was when you complete Torgal's quest, it's revealed that Torgal is the most special, amazing dog that was born just for Shiva. Just for Shiva and just for Jill. He's the most perfect dog that's designed just for her. And Clive goes, it's true, everyone thinks that he's my dog, but he's really Jill's. And it's like, okay.
And then that doesn't...
We don't see that ever. He's your dog. So, like, I don't...
I genuinely am still so baffled by so many of the decisions in that game, because, like, I mean, I've been on the pod talking about that game. I'm the Final Fantasy 16 lover of the crew. Like, I went through that game.
I love that game too. There's so many parts of it that are so fucking cool, and then there's so many other parts that make me want to pull my eyes out.
It's so bad. It's so frustrating that it's on here for the same reason of Wo Long. It's like, this is a great game, but fuck this game.
Yeah.
It's so maddening.
What a fucking joke. I'm so mad about that. Fucking hell.
It's the you should play this game. Also, this game is bad. It's legitimately the most, like, upsetting game of the year for me.
Well, I'm glad we got that out of our systems.
Yeah.
I've been needing to talk about that all year. Drives me insane.
I think all of us had stuff that we just wanted to scream about a little.
Oh,